So today I'm going to show you how to construct a tree protection tube. You can use different materials for this. We like chicken wire because it's fairly cheap and it works well. Here I have a 4-foot tall roll of chicken wire, and what we're going to want to do is cut a 5-foot section, which when we roll it up with a little bit of overlap will give us about 1.5 foot diameter of your tube. So if you roll it out, I use bricks to hold it down, and then these are tin snips. They just have an offset, which makes it easier to cut without having the wire cut up your hands. So I'm just gonna cut through here. So you can see it wants to roll back in on itself, and then we just use zip ties to hold it all together. And chicken wire will cut you very easily, so you might want to wear gloves. You don't need that much overlay, just enough to give you something to work with. I always get these wrong the first time, but I think that's right there. So that's connected. That's connected. So I lifted the tube up, and I added a 3rd zip tie here, and now your tube is complete. And we'll go show you how to set it up on a tree. I do want to use this as an opportunity to talk about the size. So, we built 1.5 foot in diameter tubes, which is okay for many of our trees. This is a shrub variety. You can see some of the branches are starting to hit the edge of the tube. You might want to make a bigger one if you want to have lower branches that are, their growth would be impeded by this tube. But for many of our trees, this size is okay because we want those trees to grow a straight.
All right, well, thanks to my colleague EB for building this cage. And now I want to show you some ways to install this cage around your young saplings. Many ways you can do this, but I'll just show you 2 that I like. I'm going to show you one that I think is really quite easy first. I'll place the cage around the sapling, and then I'll use these things here. They're called sod staples typically. They go by different names, but look up sod staples. Very cheap. You can get them from hardware stores. What I like about them is you can take a sod staple, you find your gap here, and you pin it down. Now, I'm fortunate that this is very soft soil. If you don't have soft soil, well, use a hammer or a rubber mallet, whatever you please. I'll do another one here. I typically do several, and you can hammer that in. Do as many as you feel you need to do. In this case, maybe 4 is going to be sufficient. I usually don't do more than that. I'll do one sort of on the 4 sides here just to give a good demo. Now, this thing's quite stable. It's not going anywhere. So that's sort of my preferred way to do this. But maybe you don't have access to these. Maybe you have some scraps laying around. Here's an example. I found this. We're just laying around gathering dust. So let me show you what I would do in this case. Let's go ahead and pull out these staples. So in this case, I'll do it a little bit differently. First, I'll sort of just generally mark where I want these to go. So I'm going to put that right in there. Put this one right over here, thereabouts. Move this out of the way. Now I'm going to put this, maybe move it over about, a little less than an inch, half an inch. Hammer that down. This is on the outside of the cage, so I want to get it more on the inside of the cage. This is kind of a fat stake here, not going to drive in super easy, but it'll still make my point. They're in there quite sturdily. Now, you can bend it a little bit to get it around and slide it over top. You could leave it like this. This is reasonably stable. You could also tie a little zip tie around there if you want. This is going to withstand most scenarios. So this is a nice option if you're just got some scraps laying around. Also want to reiterate the width of the cage, totally up to you. This is what we've been using, but like everything with all this work, there's just a lot of room for experimentation or different sizes, just a lot of flexibility. So anyway, this is a nice protection system. One important thing though, make sure you remove this cage later. This tree is going to grow up, and there is a point at which the trunk could literally begin to start growing through this mesh. If that happens, the tree will die. So within, by the time this tree is large enough to be able to withstand predation, you need to fully remove this cage. And it's a metal chicken wire cage. You can reuse it. These things become nice little tools to have around. We have bunches of cages we put on trees and take off years later. Hope that's helpful.